Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today we're hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, entitled Prahlada Pacifies Lord Nrsingadeva with Prayers. As related in this chapter, Prahlada Maharaja, following the order of Lord Brahma, pacified the Lord when the Lord was extremely angry after having killed Hiranyakashipu. After Hiranyakashipu was killed, the Lord continued to be very angry, and the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, could not pacify him. Even Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, the constant companion of Narayana, could not dare come before Lord Nrsingadeva. Then Lord Brahma asked Prahlada Maharaj to go forward and pacify the Lord's anger. Prahlada Maharaja, being confident of the affection of his master, Lord Nrsingadeva, was not afraid at all. He very gravely appeared before the Lord's lotus feet and offered him respectful obeisances. Lord Nrsingadeva, being very much affectionate toward Prahlada Maharaja, put his hand on Prahlada's head, and because of being personally touched by the Lord, Prahlada Maharaja immediately achieved Brahma Jnana, spiritual knowledge. Thus, he offered his prayers to the Lord in full spiritual knowledge and full devotional ecstasy. The instructions given by Prahlada Maharaja in the form of prayers to the Lord is full spiritual knowledge and full devotional ecstasy. The instructions given by Prahlada Maharaj in the form of his prayers are as follows. Prahlada said, I am not proud of being able to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I simply take shelter of the mercy of the Lord, for without devotion one cannot appease him. One cannot please the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by dint of high parentage or great opulence, learning, austerity, penances, or mystic power. Indeed, these are never pleasing to the Supreme Lord, for nothing can please him but pure devotional service. Even if a non-devotee is a Brahmana qualified with the 12 Brahminical symptoms, he cannot be very dear to the Lord, whereas if a person born in a family of dog-eaters is a devotee, the Lord can accept his prayers. The Lord does not need anyone's prayers, but if a devotee offers his prayers to the Lord, the devotee benefits greatly. Ignorant persons born in low families, therefore, can sincerely offer heartfelt prayers to the Lord, and the Lord will accept them. As soon as one offers his prayers to the Lord, he is immediately situated on the Brahman platform. Lord Nrsingadeva appeared for the benefit of all human society, not only for Prahlada's personal benefit. The fierce form of Lord Nrsingadeva may appear most awful to a non-devotee, but to the devotee, the Lord is always affectionate as he is in other forms. Conditioned life in the material world is actually extremely fearful. Indeed, a devotee is not afraid of anything. Fear of material existence is due to false ego. Therefore, the ultimate goal of life for every living entity is to attain the position of being servant of the Lord. The miserable condition of the living entities in the material world can be remedied only by the mercy of the Lord, although there are so-called material protectors like Lord Brahma and the other demigods, or even one's own father. They are unable to do anything if one is neglected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, one who has fully taken shelter of the Lord's lotus feet can be saved from the onslaught of material nature. Therefore, every living entity should be unattracted by material so-called happiness and should take shelter of the Lord by all means. That is the mission of human life. To be attracted by sense gratification is simply foolish. Whether one is a devotee or of the Lord or is a non-devotee does not depend upon one's birth in a high or low family. Even Lord Brahma and the goddess of fortune cannot achieve the full favor of the Lord, whereas a devotee can very easily attain such devotional service. The Lord's mercy is bestowed equally upon everyone, regardless of whether one is a high or low. Because Prahlad Maharaj was blessed by Narada Muni, Prahlada became a great devotee. The Lord always saves the devotee from impersonalists and voidists. The Lord is present in everyone's heart as the Supersoul to give the living being protection and all benefits. Thus, the Lord acts sometimes as the killer and sometimes as the protector. One should not accuse the Lord for any discrepancies. It is His plan that we see varieties of life within this material world. All of them are ultimately His mercy. Although the entire cosmic manifestation is non-different, the material world is nonetheless different from the spiritual world. Only by the mercy of the Supreme Lord can one understand how the wonderful material nature acts. For example, although Lord Brahma appeared from the lotus seat that had grown from the abdomen of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he could not understand what to do after his appearance. He was attacked by two demons, Madhu and Kaitaba, who took away Vedic knowledge. But the Lord killed them and entrusted to Lord Brahma the Vedic knowledge. Thus the Lord appears in every millennium in the societies of demigods, human beings, animals, saints, and aquatics. All such incarnations are meant to protect the devotees and kill the demons, but this killing and protecting does not reflect any sense of partiality on the part of the Supreme Lord. The conditioned soul is always attracted by the external energy. Therefore, he is subjected to lust and greed, and he suffers under the conditions of material nature. The Lord's causeless mercy toward his devotee is the only means by which to get out of material existence. Anyone engaged in glorifying the Lord's activities is always unafraid of this material world, whereas one who cannot glorify the Lord is in that way is subjected to all lamentation. Those interested in silently worshiping the Lord in solitary places may be eligible for liberation themselves, but a pure devotee is always aggrieved to see others suffering. Therefore, not caring for his own liberation, he always engages in preaching by glorifying the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj, therefore, had tried to deliver his class friends by preaching and had never remained silent. Very good point. He never remained silent. Although being silent, observing austerities and penances, learning the Vedic literature, undergoing ritualistic ceremonies, living in a solitary place, and performing japa and transcendental meditation are approved means of liberation, they are meant for non-devotees or for cheaters who want to live at the expense of others. A pure devotee, however, being freed from all such deceptive activities, is able to see the Lord face to face. The atomic theory of the composition of the cosmic manifestation is not factual. The Lord is the cause of everything, and therefore he is the cause of this creation. One should therefore always engage in devotional service by offering respectful obeisances to the Lord, offering prayers, working for the Lord, worshiping the Lord in the temple, always remembering the Lord, and always hearing about his transcendental activities. Without these 6 kinds of activity, one cannot attain to devotional service. Prahlada Maharaja thus offered his prayers to the Supreme Lord, begging his mercy at every step. Lord Nrsingadeva was pacified by Prahlada Maharaja's prayers and wanted to give him benedictions by which Prahlada could procure all kinds of material facilities. Prahlada Maharaj, however, was not misled by material facilities. Rather, he wanted to remain always a servant of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Should we continue now, or we stop here? We can continue, okay. Canto 7, Chapter 9, text number 1. Shri Narada Uvacha, Evam Suradaya Sarve, Brahma Rudra Pura Sara. What is that? No Paitum Asakan Manil Samrambam Sudarasadam. The great Saint Narada Muni continued. The demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and other great devotees, and other great demigods, dared not come forward before the Lord, who at that time was extremely angry. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Narottam Das Thakura has sung in his Prema Bhakti Chandrika, Krodha Bhakta Devasi Jnane. Anger should be used to punish a demon who is envious of devotees. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, and Matsarya, lust, anger, greed, illusion, pride, and envy, all have their proper use for the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotee. A devotee of the Lord cannot tolerate blasphemy of the Lord or his other devotees, and the Lord also cannot tolerate blasphemy of a devotee. Thus, Lord Nrsingadev was so very angry that the great demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and even the goddess of fortune, who is the Lord's constant companion, could not pacify him, even after offering prayers of glorification and praise. No one was able to pacify the Lord in his anger. But because the Lord was willing to exhibit his affection for Prahlada Maharaja, all the demigods and the others present before the Lord pushed Prahlad Maharaj forward to pacify him, meaning Krishna. Text 2. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Ji, was requested to go before the Lord by all the demigods present, who, because of fear, could not do so. But even she had never seen such a wonderful and extraordinary form of the Lord, and thus she could not approach him. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord has unlimited forms and bodily features. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Ananta Rupam. These are all situated in Vaikuntha. Yet, Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, being inspired by Leela Shakti, could not appreciate this unprecedented form of the Lord. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya recites the following verses from the Brahmanda Purana. Adrista Shruta Purvatvad Anyay Sadhar Ranayar Janai Nishingham Sankiteva Strir Loka Mohai Yano Yayo, and so forth. In other words, for the common men, the form of the Lord, as Nrsingadeva, is certainly unseen and wonderful. But for a devotee, like Prahlad Maharaj, such a fearsome form of the Lord is not at all extraordinary, By the grace of the Lord, a devotee can very easily understand how the Lord can appear in any form he likes. Therefore, the devotee is never afraid of such a form. Because of special favor bestowed upon Prahlada Maharaj, he remained silent and unafraid, even though all the demigods, including even Lakshmi Devi, were afraid of Lord Nrsingadeva. Narayana para sarve na kutaschana bibidyate. Bhagavatam 6:17-28. Not only is a pure devotee of Narayana like Prahlada Maharaja unafraid of any dangerous condition of material life, but also, if the Lord appears to mitigate the fear of a devotee, the devotee maintains his status of fearfulness in all circumstances. Text number 3. Thereafter, Lord Brahma requested Prahlada Maharaj, who was standing very near him, "My dear son, Lord Nrsingadeva is extremely angry at your demoniac father. Please go forward and appease the Lord." Text number 4. Narada Muni continued, "O king, although the exalted devotee Prahlada Maharaj was only a little boy, he accepted Lord Brahma's words. He gradually proceeded toward Lord Nrsingadeva and fell down to offer his respectful obeisances with folded hands. When Lord Nrsingadeva saw the small boy Prahlada Maharaja prostrated at the soles of his lotus feet, he became most ecstatic in affection toward his devotee. Raising Prahlada, the Lord placed his lotus hand upon the boy's head, because his hand is always ready to create fearlessness in all of his devotees. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The necessities of the material world are 4: ahara, nidra, bhaya, and maituna: eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. In this material world, everyone is in fearful consciousness. Sada samudavigna diyam. And the only means to make everyone fearless is Krishna consciousness. When Lord Nrsingadeva appeared, all the devotees became fearless. The devotee's hope of becoming fearless is to chant the holy name of Lord Nrsingadeva. Yato yato yami tato Nrsingha. Wherever we go, we must always think of Lord Nrsingadeva. Thus there will be no fear for the devotee of the Lord. Text number 6. By the touch of Lord Nrsingadeva's hand on Prahlada Maharaja's head, Prahlada was completely freed of all material condemnations and desires, as if he had been thoroughly cleansed. Therefore, he at once became transcendently situated, and all the symptoms of ecstasy became manifest in his body. His heart filled with love, and his eyes with tears, and thus he was able to completely capture the lotus feet of the Lord within the core of his heart. As stated, purport, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 14.26, Mam chayovi bicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatityaitam brahmabhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita 9.32, the Lord says, Mam hi partavya pasritya yepi syu papayunaya striyo vaishas tata sudras tepiyanti param gatim. O son of Prita, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, vaishyas or merchants, as well as sudras, workers, can approach the supreme destination. On the strength of these verses from Bhagavad Gita, it is evident that although Prahlada Maharaj was born in a demoniac family And although virtually demoniac blood flowed through his body, he was cleansed of all material bodily contamination because of his exalted position as a devotee. In other words, such impediments on the spiritual path could not stop him from progressing, for he was directly in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are physically and mentally contaminated by atheism cannot be situated on the transcendental platform. But as soon as one is freed from material contamination, he is immediately fit to be situated in devotional service. Now, see, this is a very important statement. Prahlada Maharaja, blood was made by his father, who had contaminated blood, you see. But yet, because Prahlada became a pure devotee, that was not a what you would call something that held him back from engaging in pure devotional service, even though he had his father's blood. Text number 7. Prahlad Maharaja fixed his mind and sight upon Lord Nrsingadeva with full attention, in complete trance. With a fixed mind, he began to offer prayers in love with a faltering voice. In other words, he was crying. Purport, crying out of love, tears of love. The word susamahita means very attentive or fully fixed. The ability to fix the mind in this way is a result of yoga siddhi, mystic perfection, as it is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 12.13.1. Dhyana avastita tad gatena manasa pasyanti yam yogina. One attains yogic perfection when he is freed from all material diversions, and his mind is fixed upon the lotus feet of the Lord. This is called samadhi, or trance. Prahlada Maharaja attained that stage beyond the senses because he was engaged in service. He felt transcendentally situated, and naturally his mind and attention became saturated in transcendence. In that condition, he began to offer his prayers as follows. Shri Prahlada Uvacha. Shri Prahlada said, or prayed, how is it possible for me, who have been born in a family of asuras, to offer suitable prayers to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Even until now, all the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, and all the saintly persons could not satisfy the Lord by streams of excellent words, although such persons are very qualified, being in the mode of goodness. Then what is to be said of me? I am not at all qualified. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A Vaishnava who is fully qualified to serve the Lord still thinks himself extremely low while offering prayers to the Lord. For example, Krishnadasa Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, says, Jagai Madai Haite Munise Papista, Puri Sera Kita Haite Muni Se Lagista. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 5.205. Thus, he considers himself unqualified, lower than a worm's in stool, and more sinful than Jagai and Madai. A pure Vaishnava actually thinks of himself in this way. Similarly, although Prahlada Maharaj was a pure, exalted Vaishnava, he thought himself most unqualified to offer prayers to the Supreme Lord. Mahajana Yenagata Sapanta. Every pure Vaishnava should think like this. Wow. Every pure Vaishnava should think like this. One should not be falsely proud of his Vaishnava qualifications. Srila Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore instructed us. Trinadapi sunichena darorapi sahisnana amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Unless one is meek and humble, to make progress in spiritual life is very difficult. Text 9. Prahlad Maharaja continued, one may possess wealth, an aristocratic family, beauty, austerity, education, sensory expertise, luster, influence, physical strength, diligence, intelligence, and mystic yogic power. But I think that even by all these qualifications, one cannot satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, one can satisfy the Lord simply by devotional service. Gajendra did this, and thus the Lord was satisfied with him. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. No kind of material qualification is the means for satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, only by devotional service can the Lord be known. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Unless the Lord is pleased by the service of a devotee, the Lord does not reveal himself. Naham prakasasarvasya yogamaya samanvrita. This is the verdict of all Shastras. Neither by speculation nor by material qualifications can one understand or approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text number 10. If a Brahmana has all 12 of the Brahminical qualifications, as they are stated in the book called Sanat Sujata, but is not a devotee and is averse to the lotus feet of the Lord, he is certainly lower than a devotee who is a dog eater, but who has dedicated everything, mind, words, activities, wealth, and life, to the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee is better than such a Brahmana because the devotee can purify his whole family, whereas the so-called Brahmana in a position of false prestige cannot purify even himself. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here is a statement by Prahlad Maharaja, one of the 12 authorities, regarding the distinction between a devotee and a Brahmana expert in karma kanda, or Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. There are 4 varnas and 4 ashramas, which divide human society, but the central principle is to become a first-class pure devotee. It is said in the Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, Bhagavat Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastram Japas Tapa. And there's a footnote here. These are the 12 qualities of perfect Brahmana. Following religious principles, speaking truthfully, controlling the senses by undergoing austerities and penances, being freed from jealousy, being intelligent, being tolerant, creating no enemies, performing yagyas, giving charity, being steady, being well-versed in Vedic study, and observing vows. Okay, so we Bhagavat Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastram Japastapa Apranasya Daiva Dehasya Mandanam Loka Ranjanam. If one is born in a high family, like that of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, but is not a devotee of the Lord, all his good qualities as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya are null and void. Indeed, they are considered decorations of a dead body. In this verse, Prahlada Maharaja speaks of the Vipras, the learned Brahmanas. The learned Brahmana is considered best among the divisions of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. But a devotee born in a low Chandala family is better than such Brahmanas, not to speak of the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. A devotee is better than anyone, for he is in the transcendental position on the Brahman platform. Mam chayo vibhacharina bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Bhagavad Gita 14.26. The 12 qualities of a first-class Brahmana, as stated in the book called Sanat Sujata, are as follows. Jnanam cha satyam cha dhamma shulam cha. He amatsaryan hrish titikshana asyu. Yajnas cha danam cha driti samascha mahavrata Dvadasa Brahmanasya. The European and American devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement are sometimes accepted as Brahmanas, but the so-called caste Brahmanas are very much envious of them. In answer to such envy, Prahlad Maharaj says that one who has been born in a Brahmana family but is falsely proud of his prestigious position cannot even purify himself, not to speak of his family, whereas if a Chandala, a low-born person, is a devotee and has fully surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Lord, he can purify his entire family. We have had actual experience of how Americans and Europeans, because of their full Krishna consciousness, have purified their whole families. So much so that a mother of a devotee, at the time of her death, inquired about Krishna with her last breath. Therefore, it is theoretically true and has been practically proven that a devotee can give the best service to his family, his community, his society, and his nation. The foolish accuse a devotee of following a principle of escapism, but actually the fact is that a devotee is the right person to elevate his family. A family engages everything in the service of the Lord, and therefore he is always, a devotee engages everything in the service of the Lord, and therefore he is always exalted. Text 11. The Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always fully satisfied in himself. Therefore, when something is offered to him, the offering by the Lord's mercy is for the benefit of the devotee, for the Lord does not need service from anyone. To give an example, if one's face is decorated, the reflection of one's face in a mirror is also seen to be decorated. Purport. In Bhakti Yoga, it is recommended that a devotee follow 9 principles. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam. This service of glorifying the Lord by hearing, chanting, and so on is not, of course, meant for the benefit of the Lord, This devotional service is recommended for the benefit of the devotee. The Lord is always glorious, whether the devotee glorifies him or not. But if the devotee engages in glorifying the Lord, the devotee himself automatically becomes glorious. Chetadarpana marjanam, bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam. By glorifying the Lord constantly, the living entity becomes purified in the core of his heart, and thus he can understand that he does not belong to the material world, but is a spirit soul whose actual activity is to advance in Krishna consciousness so that he may become free from the material clutches. Thus, the blazing fire of material existence is immediately extinguished. Bhava Maha Davagni Nirvapanam. A foolish person is amazed that Krishna orders Sarvadharmam Parityaja Mamekam Saranam Vraja. Abandon all varieties of religious activities and just surrender unto me. Some foolish scholars even say that this is too much to demand. But this demand is not for the benefit of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, it is for the benefit of human society. If human beings, individually and collectively, surrender everything to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in full Krishna consciousness, all of human society will benefit. One who does not dedicate everything to the Supreme Lord is described in this verse as avidusha, a rascal. In Bhagavad Gita 7.15, the Lord himself speaks in the same way. Namam duskritina mudha prapadyante naradana maya prita jnana asram bhavam asrita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Because of ignorance and misfortune, the atheists and the Naradamas, the lowest of men, do not surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, although the Supreme Lord Krishna is full in himself, he appears in different yugas to demand the surrender of the conditioned souls so that they will benefit by becoming free from the material clutches. In conclusion, the more we engage in Krishna consciousness and remember service unto the Lord, the more we benefit. Krishna does not need service from any of us. Text 12. Therefore, although I was born in a demoniac family, I may without a doubt offer prayers to the Lord with full endeavor. As far as my intelligence allows, anyone who has been forced by ignorance to enter the material world may be purified by material life if he offers prayers to the Lord and hears the Lord's glories. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is clearly understood that a devotee does not need to be born in a very high family, to be rich, to be aristocratic, or to be very beautiful. None of these qualifications will engage one in devotional service. With devotion, one should feel, God is great and I am very small. Therefore, my duty is to offer my prayers to the Lord. Only on this basis can one understand and render service to the Lord. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18:55, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yaman yaschasmitattvata tatomam tattvato gyatva vishitetad anantaram. One can understand the Supreme Personality Godhead as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Thus, Prahlad Maharaja decided to offer his best prayers to the Lord without consideration of his material position. Is time over? Yeah. Okay, well, that's a good place to stop, and we'll pick up tomorrow. And our takeaway for today, Bhaktyamam Abhijanati, Yavan Yaschasmi Tatvata, Tatvamam Tatvato Gyatva, Vishatetad Anantaram. One can understand the Supreme Personality Godhead as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Thus, Prahlad Maharaj decided to offer his best prayers to the Lord without consideration of his material position. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Gaura Premanandi, Haribol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Haribol.